Andy Cohen has spent 18 years learning exactly how to break a guest. He doesn't yell, "dot." He just finds the one question that sounds playful enough to laugh off and sharp enough to draw blood. And then he waits, cocktail in hand, for the crack to show. Until the night his target was a 60-year-old comedian from Tennessee who still says, "Bless your heart," and means it. Nobody expected the fight to come from her. That was the whole problem. Andy had sized her up in 10 seconds flat. Sweet, soft, easy. The kind of guest who cries a little, laughs a lot, and never, ever pushes back. Exactly the kind of guest his show was built to unravel. He had no idea he'd picked the one person in 18 years who wouldn't unravel. He had no idea that underneath the sequins and the southern charm was a woman who'd spent 25 years being underestimated by people exactly like him, and had gotten very, very good at knowing precisely when to stop smiling. What started as a cocktail named in her honor was about to end with her standing up mid-broadcast, looking him dead in the eye, and saying the one thing Andy Cohen, a man who has survived every scandal Bravo could throw at him, was not remotely prepared to hear about himself. Nobody in that clubhouse saw the storm coming, least of all the man who thought he was the one controlling it. The Watch What Happens live set glowed its usual candy-colored pink and orange that night. Bartender mixing the church lady Cosmo Andy had named specifically for his guest. The Bravo wall of headshots grinning down like a jury of reality stars who'd already seen worse fights than the one about to happen. Leanne Morgan sat perched on the clubhouse, clearly delighted and slightly overwhelmed by the whole spectacle. The flashing lights, the shot ski propped in the corner, the wall of Bravo merchandise behind her. "I have never in my life been somewhere so glittery," she said, laughing as she took in the set. "This feels like my mama's Christmas tree had a baby with a nightclub." Andy leaned back in his chair, grinning that familiar mischievous grin. "Welcome to the clubhouse, Leanne. We're gonna have so much fun tonight." "I sure hope so," she said. "I brought my church voice and my bar voice. We'll see which one wins." The audience roared. This was exactly the energy Bravo fans had been promised. The first 10 minutes moved exactly the way a WWHL segment should. Andy asked about Happy's Place, about Rex Lynn, about the Netflix specials. He played a game where Leanne had to guess which outrageous Real Housewives quote belonged to which star, and she got every single one wrong in increasingly delighted ways. "I don't know these women, Andy, but I love them already," she said, wiping tears of laughter. "Whoever said, 'I'll fight a bear before I let a woman disrespect me at brunch,' is my new best friend." Andy cackled, delighted. "That's Teresa, obviously." Then came the caller segment. A woman from Ohio asked Leanne to settle a debate. Was it weirder to marry your high school sweetheart or fall in love on a sitcom set? Leanne laughed and answered warmly, telling a sweet story about meeting Rex on the Happy's Place set and how neither of them had been looking for anything. "That's the kind of love story people write books about," the caller gushed. "Or Lifetime movies," Andy added, grinning. "Very marketable, Leanne, very on brand." Leanne's smile flickered for just a half second, so brief most of the audience missed it, before she laughed it off. "I'll take that as a compliment, Andy." Then he reached for the caller phone one more time, and something in his expression shifted, just slightly, a little sharper, a little more predatory. The audience didn't notice yet. The control room did. "Actually, before we get to that," Andy said, gesturing toward the big screen behind the bar, "I want to show you something first. We got some behind-the-scenes footage from your green room tonight." Leanne's eyebrows went up. "My green room?" The screen lit up with a 10-second clip. Leanne, backstage, arms crossed, visibly unsmiling, saying something to an assistant that the microphone hadn't fully caught. The audience made an uncertain, "ooh" sound. "That's a very different energy than the one you've been giving us all night," Andy said, grinning. "What was that about? Diva moment before showtime?" Leanne watched the clip again on the monitor, and her expression didn't change much, just a slow, patient exhale. You want to know what I was actually saying in that clip, Andy? I mean, sure, but it looked pretty tense. I was telling my assistant that my mama's hip surgery went fine today, and she was finally out of recovery, Leanne said. I was crossing my arms because I was cold, and I wasn't smiling because I'd just spent the last 20 minutes worried sick about my 81-year-old mother on an operating table. That's the whole clip, Andy. That's the big scandal. The audience's laughter died instantly, replaced by a wave of audible sympathy. Andy's grin faltered. I didn't know that context. That's the problem with clips, isn't it? Leanne said, still gentle but with something firmer underneath now. You can make 10 seconds of anybody's worst moment look like their whole personality if you leave out the part where they're just a person having a hard day. All right, he said, recovering, moving quickly past it. Time for plead the fifth. 3 questions. You gotta answer at least 2. Oh, Lord, Leanne said, laughing nervously, though something in her posture had gone slightly more guarded since the clip. Here we go. The first question was harmless enough, whether she thought Dolly Parton or Reba McEntire threw a better backyard party. Leanne answered easily, deflecting nothing, offending no one, and the room relaxed for a moment. The second question was a callback, sharper this time. Speaking of real versus performance, that green room clip earlier, word on the street is that's not the first time you've had a, let's call it, moment backstage that didn't match the sweet persona. True or false? Leanne's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. False. And I think you know that, Andy, because you just watched me explain exactly what that clip actually was. I'm just asking the question I was given. Given by who? She asked. And for the first time, real steel entered her voice. Same mutual friend as before? Because it's starting to sound like you've got a producer somewhere feeding you a storyline about me before I even walked in the building tonight. Andy didn't answer that directly. He moved on to the third question instead, the one about her being a shark underneath the sweetness. Okay, last one. Word on the street is that your whole sweet southern grandma thing is, and I quote a mutual friend of ours, a very calculated brand built by a very savvy businesswoman. True or false? The audience made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a gasp. Leanne's smile stayed fixed in place, but something behind her eyes went very still. Now, who told you that? She asked, her tone still light, but with an edge creeping in underneath. I plead the fifth on my source, Andy said, grinning, clearly enjoying himself. But is it true? Is Leanne Morgan a character, like a persona you put on? Because nobody's actually that nice for real. The studio went quiet in that particular Bravo-adjacent way. The silence right before a housewives' reunion explodes. I am exactly this nice in real life, Leanne said, her Tennessee drawl thickening slightly, the way it always did when she meant business. I don't know what mutual friend told you different, but they don't know me. Come on, Andy pressed, sensing blood in the water the way he always did with a housewife about to crack. Nobody builds a Netflix empire, a sitcom deal, a sold-out arena tour by just being naturally sweet. There's got to be a version of you that's a shark. I want to meet her tonight. There isn't one, Leanne said. I promise you. I don't believe you, Andy said, still smiling, but his voice had taken on that particular reality TV producer quality, the one that had built an empire out of pushing people until they cracked on camera. Everybody on this show eventually shows me who they really are. That's kind of the whole premise of my career. Let me guess where this is headed, Leanne said, still smiling, but her eyes had sharpened. You're about to ask me something about my husband, or my kids, or my mama, and dress it up as a fun Bravo question. I mean, now that you mention it, Andy said, grinning wider, your husband appears in your specials. Your family stories are basically your whole act. How much of that is real affection, and how much of that is just really good material you happen to be married to? The audience made a small collective sound, somewhere between a laugh and a wince. My husband is not a bit, Andy, Leanne said, quieter now. He's not a punchline I workshop. He's the man who's been beside me through 25 years of nobody wanting to book me. You don't get to turn my marriage into a segment about authenticity just because it makes good television. I didn't say it wasn't real love, Andy said, backpedaling slightly but still pushing. I'm just saying it's also really good content. Both things can be true. Both things can be true, Leanne agreed. But you keep acting like the second one cancels out the first. Like if something happens to be marketable, it can't also be genuine. That's a real sad way to look at the world, Andy. By that logic, everything on your entire network would have to be fake, because every single bit of it makes you money. The audience laughed, but it was a different kind of laugh now, sharper, more knowing. The kind that happens when a guest lands a real point instead of a joke. Andy's smile tightened. Fair point. Noted. Leanne set her cocktail down. Not hard. Not yet. Just deliberately, the way a woman sets something down when she wants both hands free. Andy, I think you might be confusing me with somebody from one of your shows, she said. I didn't sign up to have my whole personality accused of being fake on live television because some anonymous person whispered something in your ear at a party. It's not an accusation, Andy said, though his grin suggested otherwise. It's a question. A fair one, I think, given how carefully managed your image is. Clean comedy, wholesome brand, not one bad word about anybody, ever. That takes work, Leanne. That takes strategy. It takes character, Leanne shot back, quieter now. There's a difference. The audience had gone completely still. Even the bartender had stopped pretending to mix a drink. Andy, sensing the room shift but unable to stop himself, leaned further in. Okay, let's test the character theory then. Real quick, off the top of your head, tell me one celebrity you secretly can't stand. Just one. I'll never tell. I'm not doing that. Come on, everybody's got one. This is a safe space. Nobody leaves the clubhouse without dishing at least a little dirt. I said I'm not doing that, Andy. Her voice had dropped, and something in it made the studio audience lean forward instead of laugh. Not because I'm scared of you, and not because I'm hiding some secret shark underneath all this. Because I don't believe in doing that to people. Not on your show, not on mine, not anywhere. That's a very rehearsed answer for someone who claims there's nothing calculated about her, Andy said. And this time there was a genuine edge in his voice. The kind regular WWHL viewers recognized as the moment right before someone got cut off or walked off entirely. It's not rehearsed. It's just true. Leanne looked at him steadily. You've spent this whole segment trying to catch me being fake, Andy. First with a clip of me worried sick about my mother, then with my marriage, now with dirt on other celebrities. And I think the real reason that bothers you so much is that you've built an entire 18-year career on the exact opposite premise. Get people drunk enough, pressured enough, cornered enough on this couch that they finally say something ugly. And when I won't do it, it doesn't fit the show. So you keep pushing. The audience made a sound that was half gasp, half delighted, ooh. Andy's smile flickered, just for a second. I'm just doing my job. Your job, Leanne repeated, and something in her tone had gone from warm to razor-edged in a single breath. Let's talk about your job for a second then, since we're being so honest tonight. The studio went dead silent. Somewhere off camera, a producer's headset crackled with a single word. Wait. I read about that lawsuit, Leanne said, calm as still water. The one where a woman who used to work for you accused you, under oath, of orchestrating a whole campaign to destroy her reputation after she left one of your shows. That's not a rumor a mutual friend whispered to me at a party, Andy. That's a matter of public record, in an actual courtroom, with your name on it. Andy's grin vanished entirely. That case is complicated. I bet it is, Leanne said. Bless her heart, whoever she is. Because I imagine it's real complicated trying to prove what happens behind closed doors when the man running the show controls every camera in the building. The audience had stopped laughing altogether. This wasn't a game anymore, and everybody in that clubhouse knew it. A producer somewhere off camera whispered urgently into a headset. Nobody moved to intervene. A judge already dismissed part of that case, Andy said, his voice tightening, reaching for the one fact he clearly kept in his back pocket for exactly this kind of moment. Part of it, Leanne repeated softly. Not all of it. And she filed again after that, didn't she? An amended lawsuit, still going, still your name on it. I read the whole article, Andy, not just the headline. Funny, because that's exactly what you accused me of not doing about my own life 5 minutes ago. Being the version of myself that only exists in headlines. That's not remotely the same thing as a plead the fifth question, Andy said, his voice tightening. You're right, Leanne said. It's worse. You just spent 10 minutes trying to get me to trash a stranger for entertainment, questioning whether my kindness is even real, calling my whole life a brand strategy, and you did it on a show built by a man who is currently being sued for allegedly destroying someone's actual career and reputation. I don't think you get to sit there and question my character, Andy. Not tonight. Not like this. You don't know the full story, Andy said, and for the first time all night, his composure had genuinely cracked. You're right, I don't, Leanne said. But neither did you. About me, 10 minutes ago. Funny how that works. Andy tried to recover, forcing a laugh that didn't quite land. Okay, well, this took a turn. Let's lighten it back. I don't think I want to lighten it back, Leanne said, and the studio audience audibly reacted. I came on your show tonight because I love Bravo, because I think what you built is genuinely entertaining, and because I wanted to have fun with you. But you spent this whole segment trying to prove I'm secretly mean underneath all this, like kindness is something people fake for ratings. And the whole time you had a real, documented accusation about your own behavior sitting right there that you clearly didn't want brought up. That's not fair to compare. I'm not comparing them to hurt you, Leanne said, her voice softening slightly, which somehow made it land even harder. I'm comparing them because you started this. You decided my niceness needed to be interrogated on live television. I'm just asking you to hold yourself to the same standard you just held me to. The audience had gone completely silent. The kind of silence that happens right before a housewife throws a drink or a table gets flipped. Look, Andy said, trying one more time to regain the room. I think we're both just having a robust conversation here. No, Leanne said, standing up slowly from the bar stool. I think you're used to people getting flustered enough by your questions that they either cry or dish dirt, and you don't quite know what to do with somebody who just tells you the truth calmly instead. That's not, Andy started, but Leanne wasn't finished. I've watched your show for years, Andy. I love it. I love the chaos. I love the housewives. I love the shot ski and the ridiculous cocktails. But I always figured underneath all of it, you actually liked the people you had on this couch. Tonight, I'm not so sure that's true. Tonight, it felt like you needed me to be fake so badly that when I wasn't, you had to go looking for something else to make me look bad. She smoothed her blazer, the sequins catching the pink clubhouse lighting. I'm gonna go ahead and finish my night somewhere else, Andy. Not because I'm mad exactly, more because I don't think this is the kind of television I want to be part of, where somebody's kindness gets treated like a crime scene just because you can't figure out the motive. Leanne, come on, we've got the shot ski, Andy started, his voice suddenly much less confident than it had been 10 minutes earlier. You go ahead and do the shot ski with somebody who came here looking for a fight, she said, not unkindly. I came here looking for a fun night. I think we both know which one of us actually got that. She picked up her purse from beside the bar. For what it's worth, Andy, I hope that lawsuit works out however it's supposed to work out. For everybody's sake, including yours. But you might want to think real hard about why proving other people's kindness is fake feels easier to you than answering questions about your own behavior. And with that, Leanne Morgan set down her half-finished church lady Cosmo, smiled warmly at the stunned audience, and walked off the Watch What Happens Live set, the first guest in 18 years of the clubhouse to leave before the credits rolled. The silence that followed was total. Andy Cohen sat alone behind the bar, his cocktail untouched, his usual easy charm nowhere to be found. The audience didn't applaud. Nobody quite knew if they were allowed to. Somebody in the back row started clapping once, twice, then stopped, unsure if it was the right thing to do. 11 seconds passed, an eternity in live television, before a producer's voice finally crackled through Andy's earpiece. He didn't say anything back. He just stared at the empty bar stool where, moments earlier, a woman who'd built an entire career on genuine kindness had proven, without raising her voice once, that some things can't be faked, and some questions are much easier to ask than to answer yourself. The bartender, still holding the shotski nobody would use tonight, quietly set it down out of frame. The cameras kept rolling on the empty seat, the untouched cocktail, and a host who, for the first time in 18 years on that set, had absolutely nothing left to say.